Enough. There comes a moment in every woman's life when the silence gets louder than the crowd, when the applause fades enough, and the noise of the world no longer validates her. That's when she meets herself. That's when she becomes dangerous. Karen, not because of what she carries on her back, but because of what she no longer needs to carry at all. The most dangerous woman is not the loudest one in the room. She's not the one who demands to be seen. She is the one who has learned how to become whole in the dark, care enough. She is the one who doesn't beg for the door to be open. She builds one. She doesn't cry for a seat at the table. She makes her own table, sets it with purpose, and eats in peace. She's not walking alone because she's lonely. She's walking alone because she outgrew the crowd. She's walking alone because alignment requires separation, because greatness doesn't come in the form of consensus. It comes in the form of calling. She's dangerous because she knows that solitude is not punishment, it's preparation. Her silence is not weakness, it's strategy. She's not distracted enough. She's not desperate. She's focused. And when a woman becomes focused, heaven moves, hell trembles, and every chain that tried to hold her breaks by divine force. The most dangerous woman is the one who learned that approval is not a currency. Care enough. Validation is not vision, and that obedience is greater than popularity. She's moved by assignment, not applause. She doesn't enough and follow the crowd because she's heard the whisper. She doesn't follow trends because she's been anchored in truth. Care enough. She doesn't settle because she knows her worth isn't up for debate. Her identity is not in what she wears, who she's with, or what title she holds. Her identity is forged in fire, molded in the wilderness, and crowned in obedience. So don't be fooled by her stillness. It's not fear. It's not hesitation. It's divine calculation. And when she steps, it's not for attention, it's for impact. Enough, because she understands that the path of purpose is often walked solo, but never in vain. And while others chase platforms, she's building legacy. There is a sacred silence that only those with courage can enter. It is the place where noise fades, where opinions vanish. Care enough. And where the only voice here is the voice of destiny calling your name. This place, this silence, this solitude, it is not a prison. It is not a punishment. It is a preparation room for power. The world has lied to us about solitude. It told us that to be alone is to be forgotten, that if no one's watching, then nothing's working, that if the phone's not ringing, the favor has run out. But let me tell you the truth. Solitude is where kings are crowned in the spirit before they're ever recognized in public. Enough and care enough. It's where queens learn to govern themselves before they ever govern nations. It is where the foundation, the unshakable, is built. Care enough. Solitude is not a wilderness of punishment. It is a sanctuary of becoming. When God wants to do something new in your life, He often starts by removing the crowd. And care enough, because clarity doesn't come in chaos, strength doesn't rise in noise, and transformation doesn't happen in the company of convenience. And care enough, you don't find your wings in the comfort of the crowd, you find them in the hush of isolation, where the only person you have to face is yourself. You see, the most dangerous woman you'll ever meet is the one who embraced her alone season, the one who stopped fighting for inclusion and started fighting for identity, the one who realized that walking alone didn't mean she was unloved. It meant she was being set apart, marked, hidden for a reason. Sometimes, care enough. Being pulled away from people is God's way of pulling you back to yourself. He's pulling you away from voices that cloud your direction, pulling you away from relationships that pacify your potential, pulling you away from patterns that keep you performing instead of becoming. And yes, it feels like a stripping. Yes, it feels like silence. But it's not a void, a divine vacancy, a space reserved for growth. Careful, when you finally sit in solitude and stop running from the quiet, you'll discover something sacred. You're stronger than you thought. Care enough. You're wiser than you gave yourself credit for. You're braver, deeper, and more anointed than they ever knew. Care enough. Because when the applause fades and the lights go out, who are you then? Solitude will answer that. And care enough. The enemy wants you to fear being alone because he knows that's where your power recharges. That's where your discernment sharpens. Care enough. That's where your emotional clutter gets cleared out. He'll try to convince you that you've been abandoned, overlooked, forgotten. but he's a liar. Care enough. You haven't been abandoned. You've been assigned. You haven't been overlooked. You've been obscured on purpose. You haven't been forgotten. You've been fortified in silence. Care enough. Every woman with true authority has been through a season where she had no one to lean on but God. No one to confide in but her journal. No one to walk with her shadow. And that's where she learned. That was enough. That she didn't need a platform to walk in power. Care enough. That she didn't need a title to have identity. That she didn't need validation to stand tall. Because when all she had was solitude, that's where she met herself. Solitude breaks addiction to noise. It detoxes your spirit from distraction. It pulls the curtain back on everything false, fake, and shallow. In its place, it plants depth, resilience, and revelation. Care enough. You begin to see who's really for you. You begin to hear what God has really been saying. And more importantly, you begin to remember who you are. Some of you are in a season where people have walked away. Friendships have fallen silent. Opportunities have dried up. And you're tempted to feel ashamed. Care enough. Like you did something wrong. But hear this today. You didn't lose your circle. You were upgraded by heading to a higher classroom. Care enough. You were taken out of group discussions and put into one-on-one mentoring with destiny. Care enough. You were pulled aside because what's coming for you can't be developed in a crowd. Care enough. This kind of woman, the one who doesn't fear solitude, she's dangerous because she's unbothered by being misunderstood. She doesn't require agreement to move forward. She doesn't crumble without company. She's built in the fire. She's led by vision, not attention. Care enough. She walks through the valley of silence with her head held high because she knows that this valley is where her oil comes from. Care enough. Have you ever noticed that some of your greatest clarity came not when you were surrounded, but when you were stripped? That your boldest decisions didn't come everyone approved, but when you had to choose yourself. That's the power of solitude. It puts the steering wheel back in your hands. It forces you to rise. It trains your spirit to walk by faith, not by feedback. Solitude is not a punishment. It is a promotion in disguise. It's where you stop reacting and start becoming. Where you stop performing and start transforming. It's where you separate what's urgent from what's eternal. And when a woman comes out of solitude having met her real self, she becomes unstoppable. So don't curse the quiet season. Don't rush the room of preparation. Don't despise the alone time, and care enough, because what you're gaining in silence will become your roar. What you're being taught in the shadows will soon light up stages. And care enough. And what you are developing alone will bless others when you're surrounded again. There is a certain kind of woman the world cannot predict, cannot pressure. Care enough, and cannot possess. She walks with a fire that's not fueled by applause. Her feet are planted in destiny, not distraction. She isn't seduced by the spotlight. Care enough, because she's been anchored in assignment. Her steps are not governed by what's trending, but by what's true. She doesn't wait to be seen to move. She moves because she was sent in a world obsessed with being like followed, reposted, and approved. It is rare and radical to find a woman who lives by conviction instead of clout, one who doesn't bow to algorithms. Care enough, who doesn't shrink to fit the crowd's expectations, a woman who dares to stand in the middle of noise and say, I didn't come to impress. I came to impact. Popularity is a game of performance. It rewards the loudest, the flashiest, the most agreeable. Purpose doesn't play by those rules. Purpose is quiet. Purpose is patient. Purpose requires sacrifice, not showmanship. Care enough. And when a woman decides to follow her assignment instead of applause, she becomes set apart. Care enough, because you cannot fulfill destiny and chase approval at the same time. The crowd will cheer you when you fit their mold and crucify you when you break it. Care enough. That's why the woman of purpose refuses to be shaped by the crowd. She doesn't let the hands of others define her clay. She was designed in the secret place. Care enough, carved out by fire and pressure and molded for something too deeply defined by trends. You can lose followers, but you can't lose what you were born to do. You can lose fans, but not the fire that was placed in your soul before you took your first breath. A woman of purpose knows that when the lights go out, when the cameras turn off, when the world forgets, calling remains. She doesn't need to be visible to be valuable. She doesn't need likes to be legitimate. She doesn't need followers to be fruitful, because her motivation isn't being seen, it's in being sent. sent to heal, sent to teach, and sent to rise, sent to be the voice that shakes chains off of others. Some of the most powerful moves you will make will happen in silence, with no crowd. Care enough, no cheerleaders, no audience clapping for you. But purpose doesn't wait for permission. Purpose walks with clarity, even when nobody claps. And the woman who walks in purpose doesn't. Do they like me? She asks, is this what I was born for? When she moves by purpose, she moves differently. She doesn't just go where it's comfortable. She goes where it's necessary. She doesn't take every opportunity. She discerns which ones are a sign. She doesn't fear being misunderstood, because obedience matters more than opinion. Care enough. If you live for their praise, you'll die by their rejection. But when you live for something greater, something deeper, care enough, something divine, you rise above the noise and love the confusion. You rise above the pressure to please. Care enough. And you enter into alignment with what heaven has already written about you. Purpose gives her focus. It gives her vision. It gives her roots. While popularity blows like the wind, unstable and ever shifting, purpose keeps her steady. She doesn't chase, she builds. She doesn't copy, she creates. She doesn't compete, she completes her assignment. And hear me when I say this, not everyone will understand her movement. Because when a woman is purpose-driven, she becomes hard to label. She's not doing what they expected. She's not showing up the way others do. She's not checking boxes. She's breaking them. She's not moving for attention. She's moving by instruction. Purpose gives her courage to say no to the popular path even when it's paved with praise. It gives her strength to walk away from good things to protect the God thing. It empowers her to be uncommon in a world begging her to conform. Popularity often costs authenticity. It demands that you water yourself down to be palatable. But a woman of purpose doesn't dilute herself for mass appeal. She speaks truth even when it shakes the room. She honors her calling even when it costs her connection. She doesn't need everyone to like her. She needs to be in line with her purpose. Purpose is not always popular. It often leads through wildernesses, valleys, battles. But it's in those very places that the woman of purpose is forged in fire. She's not weakened by adversity. She's weaponized by it because her why is bigger than her fear. She's not just living for herself. She's living for the generations she will impact. She's living for the daughters watching her, for the souls she's assigned to, for the future that's waiting for her to rise. She knows that she is not here by accident, that her gifts weren't given to sit idle, that her pain wasn't wasted, that her story isn't random. She's here on purpose, for purpose, with purpose. And because of that, she refuses to be swayed by temporary attention. There is a woman rising who does not waste her strength proving herself to people who cannot see her value. She doesn't scatter her energy chasing shadows. She doesn't lend her time to distractions disguised as opportunities. Her eyes are fixed. Her heart is anchored. Her spirit is alert. Weapon is not noise. It's focus. She is dangerous not because she shouts the loudest, but because she moves with quiet precision. Her silence is not weakness. It's warfare. Her consistency is not convenience. It's conviction. She doesn't just move forward. She aims forward. Because she knows that in a world full of chaos, confusion, and competition, the woman who holds her focus holds her power. Focus is the force that separates the wishful from the intentional. It's the discipline that keeps her from giving up too soon, backing down too fast, or reaching for things that don't align with her destiny. She understands that not everything that glitters is gold, and not every invitation is divine. So, she doesn't attend every argument. She doesn't answer every critic. She doesn't chase after every trend. She is not busy. She is building. Focus is what keeps her from being overwhelmed by the size of the dream, because she doesn't waste time measuring the mountain. She just climbs it. One step at a time, one brick at a time, one battle at a time. Focus doesn't need to rush. Focus doesn't panic. Focus knows that every inch of obedience makes way for the promise. The world will try to pull her in 1,000 directions. Messages flying in from social media, opinions pressing from people who don't understand her assignment, expectations shouting from culture. But she has learned to tune out the noise, not because she's arrogant, not because she doesn't care, But because she knows that where the mind goes, the life follows, she has trained her focus like a sword, sharpened it, honed it, polished it in private. She understands the enemy doesn't always show up in the form of defeat. Sometimes he shows up in distraction, the wrong people, the wrong timing, the wrong door. And she doesn't entertain distractions that threaten her destiny. She's come too far. She's fought too hard. She's been through too much. Focus is her boundary. It's the line she draws around her energy, around her vision, around her future, because she knows that not everyone can walk with her. Everyone can handle her pace. Not everyone can carry the weight of what she's building. And that's okay, because focus will sometimes require separation. And separation is not rejection, it's refinement. She knows how to fast from foolishness. She knows how to walk away from conversations that are costing her clarity. She knows how to say no to invitations that detour her calling. She's not moved by FOMO, she's moved by divine order. You see, focus is not just about what she looks at. It's about what she's willing to look away from. She's willing to walk away from anything that waters down her fire. She's willing to turn off the noise so she can hear what heaven is saying. She's willing to leave behind comfort zones that compromise her calling. There is a discipline in her spirit that didn't come easy. It was carved through disappointment, chiseled through heartbreak, refined in obscurity. She used to try to do it all, be everywhere, please everyone. She thought her worth was in her ability to juggle, impress, and be everything to everyone. But that led to burnout, breakdown, and broken identity. Focus frees you from the pressure to be perfect. Focus frees you from the weight of over-committing. Focus frees you from living by comparison. Focus frees you from trying to meet expectations that God never gave you. Now, she's laser sharp. Her yes is holy. Her no is bold. Her schedule is sacred. She does not apologize for protecting her mind, her time, or her peace. She knows that in order to finish strong, she must move with intention, not impulse. Focus turns her pain into strategy, her tears into oil, her silence into preparation. While others are looking for shortcuts, she's planting deep roots. Others are sprinting, she's building with precision. Because she's not after a moment of glory, she's after a legacy of impact. And yes, there will be moments when the enemy will whisper, "You're missing out. You're falling behind. Look at them. Why not you?" But she's trained her spirit to discern distraction in disguise. She's not measuring herself by their timeline. She's not moved by artificial urgency. She knows her lane and she runs it with holy discipline. Her focus becomes her filter. It tells her where to go, what to build, and what to ignore. It tells her when to speak and when to stay silent. It teaches her how to conserve her strength for what actually matters. Focus is not a weakness. It's her wisdom in motion. The focused woman may not always be visible. She may not always be loud, but when she shows up, she shakes things because everything she does is intentional. Everything she touches is thought through. Everything she carries is drenched in strategy and spiritual alignment. She doesn't get caught up in the hustle. She's walking in rhythm. Her steps are ordered. Her movements are calculated. And when it's time to strike, she strikes with precision. Her clarity makes her a threat. Her restraint makes her powerful. Her vision makes her unstoppable. There comes a time in a woman's life when she stops waiting, stops wishing, stops knocking on doors that were never meant to open. She doesn't chase what walks away. She doesn't plead for a seat at a table that dishonors her presence. She doesn't shrink herself for proximity to power. She builds what she needs. She builds what she dreams. She builds what she carries in her spirit. Enough. She builds because what she is destined to birth is too sacred to be dependent on outside permission. You can recognize her by the way she moves. There is a quiet resolve in her steps. She is not loud, but she is certain. She is not flashy, but she is foundational. She does not campaign for approval. She understands that favor cannot be forced. What she is called to do does not require applause. It requires obedience. Before time began, a purpose found her. Before any room validated her, heaven had already marked her. Before they clapped for her, she had already committed to the call. This woman doesn't beg for people to see her value because she's no longer looking for visibility. She's walking in vision. Not because it's easy, not because she's never faced rejection, disappointment, or delay. She builds because she refuses to allow her future to rest in the hands of someone else's comfort. She builds because she knows what it costs to beg. She remembers the feeling of performing to be noticed, the emotional debt of trying to fit where she never belonged. She remembers trying to mold herself into their image, only to realize it was killing her identity. And when you build, you take ownership. You no longer complain about what you didn't get. You create what didn't exist. You no longer cry over closed doors. You start framing your own foundation. She no longer mourns what she didn't receive from others. She uses it as fuel. What she didn't inherit, she will initiate. She builds businesses, ministries, homes, legacies, systems, peace, boundaries, wholeness. She doesn't wait for someone to hand it to her. She doesn't stand in the corner hoping someone will remember her potential. She remembers it herself. She picks up the hammer of wisdom. She lifts the bricks of experience. She lays down foundation with prayer, discipline, and strategy. This is not fantasy. It is focus. Don't mistake her humility for passivity. She is not idle. She is intentional. And while others are waiting to be included, she is preparing to establish. She's not impressed by being invited to the room. She's discerning whether that room is worthy of her assignment. Begging comes from scarcity. Building comes from knowing. And this woman knows she lacks nothing. Everything she needs to begin is already in her hands. May not look like much to the world, a few tools, a little faith, some raw material, but in her spirit, it's more than enough. Builders walk a lonely road. When you stop begging, you stop bending. When you stop bending, you stop blending. And when you stop blending, you start standing out. Not everyone is comfortable with that. Some will question your boldness. Others will feel threatened by your progress. She has learned that favor will always agitate the insecure. She builds in the early hours while others sleep. She builds after heartbreak, after betrayal, after the weight of disappointments that almost broke her. She builds through uncertainty. She's through silence. She builds even when there's no audience because she understands us care enough. She is not just building for herself. She is building for the next generation, for her daughters, her sisters. Care enough for the ones watching her rise in strength so they know it's possible to rise too. She builds altars, not just platforms. Her work is sacred. Her effort is spiritual. Her grind is fueled by grace, not ego. She's not hustling to prove anything. She's creating what's been assigned to her hands. Enough and care enough. And what comes from heaven doesn't need man's validation to start. This woman doesn't beg for love. She is love. She doesn't beg for access. Care enough. She creates her own lane. She doesn't beg to belong. She belongs to herself. And because she builds, she is stable. She is not shaken by every wind that blows. Enough. She is rooted, structured, grounded. Her confidence doesn't come from external affirmation. It comes from internal clarity. She is not addicted to likes, to followers, or to man-made status. She is not building for popularity. She is building for eternity. When storms come, she doesn't fold. Care enough. Her house stands because it was built on rock, not sand. She didn't rush the process. She didn't take shortcuts. She counted the cost. She laid every brick with intention. She sacrificed time for ego and sometimes companionship to create something that will outlast temporary applause. And care enough, she doesn't need revenge. Her results speak. She doesn't chase validation. Her vision testifies. She doesn't compete. She completes what she started. Care enough. So to every woman tired of asking, begging, hoping, waiting for someone to give her a chance, hear this: you don't need permission to build. Enough and care enough. You need courage to begin. You don't need applause to keep going. You need discipline to stay focused. You don't need them to believe in you. And care enough. You need to believe in what God placed in you. There is a woman who walks into a room and doesn't need to introduce herself for her presence to be felt. She doesn't need accolades stitched to her name or a title printed on a door to know who she is. She doesn't need to prove her worth, because she has already claimed it. Her confidence is not based on recognition. It's built on revelation. And that revelation is this: we live in a world obsessed with labels: doctor, CEO, first lady, influencer, mother minister, entrepreneur. And care enough. The world hands out titles like tickets at a fair, hoping people will find themselves in the noise of achievement. But a woman rooted in true identity understands that titles are roles. not her identity. Roles can shift, circumstances can change. But who she is at her core, and care enough, that's eternal. You can strip her positions, remove her from platforms, unfollow her on social media, but you cannot take away who she is enough, because her identity was never man-made. It was God-given. Her value was not assigned by the world, so the world doesn't have the power to subtract from it. This is a woman who's done the work. She's peeled back the layers of false identity. She's looked in the mirror when no one was clapping, care enough, and learned to affirm herself. She's faced the questions that stripped her bare enough. Who am I without the title? Who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when I'm not performing? Titles are temporary. They can be granted and they can be taken. But identity, that's unshakable. When you're rooted in identity, you don't panic when the title shifts. You don't fall apart when a relationship ends, when a job changes, when a season closes. And care enough, because those things might be what you do, but they're not who you are. She is not just a wife, not just a mother, not just a leader. Care enough. Those are parts of her calling, yes, but they don't define her essence, because when the nest is empty, when the followers are gone, when the stage quiets, she is still whole, still powerful, still chosen. She doesn't chase importance because she walks in inheritance. She doesn't need status to stand tall. Her spirit is already elevated. You won't find her scrambling to prove herself enough, because her identity is rooted in something deeper than recognition. It's rooted in revelation of who she is in the eyes of her creator. She remembers where her value comes from. It was spoken before she was ever seen. It was declared before she was ever applauded. It was sealed in eternity before she took her first breath. That's why you can't shake her with criticism, and you can't seduce her with fame. Her feet are planted. Her heart is steady. She is not confused about her worth, free from comparison, free from competition, care enough, free from the endless race to arrive somewhere to feel like she matters. She has learned that her significance doesn't increase with applause, and it doesn't decrease in silence. She is not defined by how she is addressed. She is defined by how she walks. There is a quiet authority in her, a stillness that confuses those who rely on outer validation. She doesn't need to speak loudly to be heard, because her life is a message. Her choices preach. Her peace testifies. Her presence carries weight, not because of her rinsuim, because of her root system. You see, titles are like leaves. Here one season, enough, gone the next. But identity is like the trunk of a tree, deep, strong, unmoved by the winds of change. And this woman has decided to go deep instead of going wide. She's planted, firm. She's not easily shaken. She knows who she is. Care enough. She doesn't need permission to stand tall, doesn't need a platform to speak truth, doesn't need a mic to move hearts. Care enough. She's not driven by ambition. She's driven by alignment. Her worth isn't in the position she holds. It's in the posture she walks in. Care enough. And when you walk in identity, doors open that titles could never unlock. Opportunities come not because of who you pretend to be, but because of who you are. And care enough, favor finds you, peace follows you, purpose pulls you forward. This woman knows her name holds more power than her job title. Enough that her legacy is not built in her label, but in her love, in her character, in the truth she carries, in the fruit she bears. Care enough. Her identity is built in the secret place, not the spotlight. She is unmoved by flattery and unbothered by shade. Air enough, because she's not here for applause. She's here for impact. And her impact is not measured in followers, income, or titles. It's measured in transformation, in healed hearts, in broken chains, in the seeds she sows through simply being who she is. I am who God says I am, and more than I do. I am rooted in truth, not trends. I am grounded in purpose, not popularity. I am whole, with or without a nameplate. There is a sacred strength that awakens inside a woman when she realizes she no longer has to be surrounded to be secure. A holy boldness rises in her when she makes peace with her path, even when no one else is walking it with her. She stops looking over her shoulder and care enough, waiting for company. She stops begging for understanding. She stops reaching backward to pull people into a future they were never meant to occupy. The world teaches women that safety is found in numbers, that power is found in the crowd, That validation is a sign you're on the right track. But this woman has discovered a higher truth. She's learned that purpose rarely travels in packs, and that greatness is often born in isolation. This woman has learned how to embrace her own company. She knows how to sit in silence without questioning her significance. She knows how to walk into a room full of people and not shrink because she's alone. She doesn't attach her worth to who walks beside her. She attaches it to who walks within her. And when God is her companion, she's never truly alone. When a woman discovers the power of walking alone, she sheds the fear of being misunderstood. She releases the weight of people pleasing. Care enough. She is no longer waiting for others to catch up, show up, or wake up. She's moving by conviction, not consensus, and that makes her unstoppable. She doesn't walk alone because no one invited her in. She walks alone because she finally realized not every invitation is elevation. Some rooms limit you. Care enough. Some tables silence you. Some company confuses you. And this woman has learned to guard her clarity like treasure. She has outgrown the need for a crowd to feel credible. She no longer defines herself by community acceptance. Her strength was developed in the quiet, in the hidden places, in the uncelebrated victories, in the prayers no one heard, in the sacrifices no one saw. That's where her power was born. And don't mistake her solitude for sadness. Don't confuse her stillness for weakness. This is a woman who has chosen the narrow path, the higher road, and care enough, the sacred route where destiny whispers louder than opinion. You see, not everyone can go where she's going. Not everyone has the endurance for her elevation. Care, not everyone has the vision for her future. And she's learned that dragging people into her destiny only delays it. So now she doesn't beg for support. She doesn't plan for understanding. She walks. And the more she walks, the clearer her path becomes. With every step, she gets lighter. The fear begins to fall off. The insecurity begins to fade. The lies that once paralyzed her are replaced with truth that empowers her. Care enough. She is no longer prisoner to the past, no longer held hostage by who left, who stayed, or who didn't believe in her. She is free. And care enough. Walking alone has taught her things comfort never could. It's where she met her it's where she discovered her voice. It's where she stopped needing approval and started walking in authority. While others fold under pressure, she rises in it.